take home the gold. He could be too far. No, he's digging. Oh, what a catch!
Puts a spicy forehand out in front of Naomi Morcilla.
Woo for the win. Team Canada. Garrett Woo!
Santos with the layout grab.
Oh, that fantastic grab. The claws of Chaffer.
Canada just became the world champions.
Yo, Canada and the rest of the world. You're listening to the Huckin podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Theo, living out in Kingston, Ontario.
And I'm Danie Proby from Vancouver, BC, and we are your coast-to-coast guide to all things Canadian Ultimate. I had a big weekend of Ultimate. It was very fun, very exciting. I'm going to talk about it in the news section. But for me personally, it was an enriching, enjoyable, and freezing experience. I've only ever been to Bellingham Invite as a player, and it is the same bad weather I remember, but instead of playing in it, I'm standing there with all my heated gloves and weatherproof jackets and everything. But it was a very successful weekend. My heart is full. My mind is buzzing with things I want to work on. I'm just stoked. How was your weekend?
I was staying in the warm confines of the school gym here. So more games happening. Our varsity season's wrapping up. We have a big event coming up between our local rivals, the Queen's Gales, and our hockey team. And that's like a big event at the OHL arena out here. So getting ready for that. But, going back to your point about the heated gloves, I just can't imagine staying warm in a tournament like that as a coach. Because as a player, you can run around and you get a little bit warm. But as a coach, you're just saying, do you have a clipboard or with your gloves on, are you able to write down stuff, or what are you doing out there?
Well, luckily, because we were sitting people every game, I organized it ahead of time in a way where I already had lines. And because we were playing everyone evenly, I was just like, okay, line DX, line DY, O, or every game, the lines switched up because I wanted to see different matchups. So I never actually had to have a clipboard. And they're smart enough that I can just describe a play and they can run a play. We weren't on O very many times, so spoiler alert.
The humble brag. We do like it on the podcast.
I didn't do that much line calling.
No set plays is what you're telling me.
Well, I made them call timeouts so we could practice running plays out of timeouts, and they were flawless. But it was definitely really cold. I have these feet warmer things, but the battery pack attaches to my ankles with this Velcro thing. And so many people were coming up to me or to people that they knew on UBC being like, is your coach under house arrest or probation? Because it looked like I had ankle monitors.
Yeah.
No.
Actually, that is the news. Actually, it's actually the news right now. Danie, it broke out of her house arrest to coach. That's how dedicated she is. So
I just love the team.
Keep that in mind.
Big fan. So yeah, that was my weekend. Your weekend was snowy. Is that the storm you're going through, or is it rain?
No, did you hear something? There was some thunder and lightning out here.
Oh, that kind of storm.
But there's also snow out here as well. So it's a little bit mix of everything. And, this weekend was supposed to be O4 UC. I had that weekend mostly off. It was Friday where I was working. So still disappointing that the dome is still not fixed, because I was set to be playing league, practicing out here, but it's just not the case. So hopefully, Kingston Dome, you get fixed, because I would like to play again.
Get this man out there. He needs to run around, let off some steam.
Pickleball. Still been playing pickleball, getting crushed by much older people.
Spoken like a true Masters player. So, enough get to know ya. We're going to head to the news section after a quick little break. We're going to talk about something exciting in game show news, and we're going to do a Bellingham recap. So we'll see you on the other side.
We now have breaking news.
All right, welcome to your news section. Okay, so I know Remy Ojo's family was on Family Feud before in Canada, but we have a new Ultimate family. Well, some of them play Ultimate. Well, I think only Maddie plays Ultimate for the people that were there, but Maddie has a bazillion siblings. Honestly, 9? More than that? I don't know. A lot.
That's not a joke, yeah.
So 5 of them, 4 and then a husband, and then eventually 5 of them were on Family Feud. And if you can just download the CBC Gem app, Gem with a G, And you can watch. It's the end, like the most recent season. Kind of you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see the Ong family. They play 3 different rounds. So they win 3 times. It's pretty incredible. This family brings so much energy. If you know Maddie Ong, she has so much fire, so much competitive like blood in her. And her family is more energetic and more competitive than her. So it's a very entertaining watch. I also heard that Jerry D, the host, actually went up to them afterwards and like thanked them and said that they were like his favorite family. And the producers were like, did he just talk to you? And they're like, yeah. They're like, he never does that. And so they're little stars. Maddie did really well. It was really fun. They didn't really mention Frisbee though, which makes me sad. I think they should have shouted out
Good
Maddie
chance for promo out here. Come on.
Yeah, like Team Canada Ultimate Player. Like, come on.
Good stuff though. I haven't seen it. I do got to watch it. I know Remy was out there before, and I'm not sure how far he got. So it would be good to talk to Maddie to find out like the behind the scenes. Like, is it filmed? I assume it's filmed all in one day, but I don't know. It is? Okay. Well, you know,
I got the lowdown. It's so entertaining how much they have to prep for it and like the ways they get them to be energetic and stuff. And yeah, it's not just like a quick 20-minute in studio thing. It's like a big production, and there's cues they have to hit and everything, and there's cameras on them. Must be so nerve-wracking to like have a question and have to come up with an answer split second. Like the adrenaline. I don't even know how they do it. Like I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, I want to go on. I've always wanted to go on a game show. The one I wanted to go on was The Amazing Race with my brother, but then I realized, like I need to know how to drive stick because like in Europe, a lot of the cars are that. So, one day get on the Amazing Race or something like that. Would you go on
Amazing Race Canada?
I guess I could try. I need a partner. Inquiring for partners out here. Come on.
We should do it. No, we would murder each other.
Are you kidding me? That is a very bad idea. No offense.
The worst idea. No, but like the amount of people
that would be kind of cool. You know how much promo we could do? Like every time we like are on the show, it's just like, yo, check out Huckin. Check out Huckin.
And we'd be like, hey, we our like little video of like submitting a bid would be like, we will guarantee we will fight every episode. And not even just for entertainment, just because we can't help it. So Ari and I have been told
it's like sibling right here.
Totally. Ari and I have been told that we should go on it. Like everybody's like, you have to apply, but it always conflicts with like world stuff or whatever. And so next year we're going to apply.
You should. I'm just going to say mixed race couples there's like an advantage potentially.
And we got that age thing too. Like that age difference, start a business together.
Yeah. That's
spicy.
Come on. You're getting on the show. Let's go. We're going to make it happen.
All right. Anyways, back to the news. So Bellingham Invite happened this weekend. Theo, do you want me to talk about UBC or do you want to talk about
Maybe
UBC?
I'll talk about it and you get the color.
Okay.
You can add a little extra, but they played not Western University out in London, but Western Washington. Look at these scores out here, folks. I'm just going to throw the scores and then, Danny, you can add some color to some games, but Western Washington, 15-3 UBC. Washington Element, a team that made semis not too long ago. I believe it was 2021 Fall Nationals. 13-2. Come on. Oregon Fugue, another team multi-world ranked, 13-1. And then UVic, 10-2. For the audience at home, you can count up the score differential, but they only got scored on. Let me count it here.
Ocho.
8 times?
Yeah.
Come on. 8 times in a
That's what I'm saying. I wasn't busy.
In a one-day tourney? Still, that's pretty crazy. Give us, not just me, but the audience, some color on what happened here.
Okay, so the first game against Western, everyone's a little nervous. We've been having really high intensity practices leading up to this event, and we were really kind of excited to let everyone kind of run around. We didn't have any like OD lines or anything like that. We had 7 people sitting this game so that we could kind of play. Oh yeah, one thing to note, we do have these reserve players on UBC. So there's 4 players on our team that practice with us and play in the non-sanctioned games and tournaments, and then potentially could get called up later in the season if we need them. And so we had our whole roster, including our reserve players, playing in this tournament. So we have, I think, 29 people total practicing with UBC right now. So we play Western, a little bit of nervous energy. We actually start by getting broken, and we're like, well, good morning, let's wake up now. And then we ended up winning 15-3. That was the nicest weather game that we had all day. So there was, we took really diligent stats, as I said. We had Emily Chong, who graduated last year, come down and surprise the team. And so she was using Stato, which is that stat one where you can actually click on the field where the passes are happening. So the interesting stat in the Western game with the nice weather is that when we got turns, we never turned it again. No, sorry. The stat is that every time we threw for a goal, it was completed, which is like quite rare in a college tournament, that anytime you're trying to score, you are 100% successful when you're not doing O&D lines. I think that's like a pretty cool thing. And everybody's hucking, everybody's contributing. It's not like we're running everything through like Maddie and Mika, for example. So pretty fun. Then we played UW. We were definitely the most anxious, amped up maybe for this game. And after about like 2 points, it was a crazy windstorm, like sideways freezing rain. It was horrible. The score ended up being 13-2. I'm just like, we were all a little surprised, but our energy was just so high. Our marks were really good. It was all about defense in that game. We were actually able to throw a few upwind hucks, which I think was very rare from what I heard, because Scott Dunham was there and he said he wasn't seeing any other teams being able to kind of complete those throws because it was so windy. So we definitely had throwing depth and a defensive intensity on our side. But you can see UW has some really good athletes that maybe aren't just the most experienced throwers. So I expect that once we see this team in better weather and with their full roster, it will be a much tighter game, but it is definitely a nice little confidence boost at this point. Then we played Oregon, and it was still pretty bad weather, and we rolled through 13-1, I believe. I think that's what the final score was. And then our final game was against UVic. It was honestly like dark out by this point, and no one could feel their hands. Like both teams were making insane cuts, making insane blocks, struggling to catch because their hands were like literally made of ice. So we had a really fun final game.
It's fun to win those games, but if you're losing and it's cold out, you're miserable, it's just tough out there. You got to keep the energy up somehow, but I could just imagine it being real tough out there. So is this a sanctioned tournament? I was trying to look for the website.
No.
The results won't affect the algorithm.
Exactly. And so that's why we went into the tournament. We're like, we're not going to zone. We're not going to do anything that we haven't been working on. We were really diligent about our block one practices and block one strategies, that this tournament, regardless of whether we were zoned, regardless of the weather, we wanted to play person defense. We wanted to work on the things we were working on. Because it's unsanctioned, it did end up going our way score-wise. So if it was sanctioned, obviously that would be fine for us. Maybe not so great for our region, but yeah, it was nice to be unsanctioned. And then we could also bring our reserve players as well. So the one thing also I want to say about the UVic game is that they had a smaller squad, and as we were going to be talking about later on, they're going to Santa Barbara. So they were really in injury management, playing 4 games in the cold, kind of overworking people. They were definitely trying to just not get hurt, because Santa Barbara is a really big event for them.
We're going to move on to the Thunder. Some people like the Thunderbirds. I like Thunderwolves. That's a good name too.
Thunderwolves is dope. They're so good.
So UBC B, it's the Thunderwolves. They played a ranked Western team. Number 19, is that correct? On the Ultra-World Power Rankings out there? So they played a number 19 team. Was close until half, and then Western then takes the game. But you got to be excited if you're the Thunderwolves. You're taking on a top 25 ranked team. You keep it close to half. That's awesome. You beat UWB by a large score, 13-2 or some kind of number related to that. So that's sweet. But then, sad news, 2 of their games are forfeited. Whitman, Washington, what are you doing out here forfeiting on this B team? Come on, they got to get experience.
It's just, we had just played UW, and then UW's coaches went right over to UBC B and said, we don't have the numbers, I guess. They said they only had 2 lines or whatever, but in most of our games we were running with 2 lines. I guess we had a lot of people kind of sitting out in all the games, but they're a local team. I thought it was kind of bad mojo to do something like that. And then right after, I guess some of the Whitman players told some of the Thunderwolves players that they were also just leaving, but no one had talked to the UBC B coaches. And so they heard through their Slack, they're like, oh, Whitman also left. And so they went all the way down to this tournament. They're only playing in 2 tournaments this season. It was this one and Northwest Challenge. And they only got to play 2 games. Sucks. I think their game against Whitman would have been really good too.
Yeah, you know I'm a sucker for the B teams out here.
I know, we love them. And they're so good. Like the fact that they were kind of like neck and neck with Western is just like such a testament to the program in BC. So I would have loved to have seen their score against Whitman specifically. So hopefully I've kind of suggested, and I think that they're probably going to maybe go to sectionals because I think they could make a little splashy splash.
Is there a B sectionals out there for Northwest? And I know certain regions.
For Northwest Challenge, yeah. I think there will be.
No, conferences like sectionals. No, because there's some for some regions, but yeah, interesting. And why don't you tell us, wrap up the news here with UVic and what they did?
So UVic was able to beat Whitman by 4 and also UW B by 12. So they just kind of handed it to them. So clearly UBC B team, the superior B team.
Oh, that's clear right there.
So they also had a close loss to Western. So if Western's kind of coming in like in the top 25 ranked, I expect that UVic is kind of in that realm as well. They had a final loss to UBC kind of at the end of the tournament, but it was good vibes all around and fun times. So that's the Bellingham Invite. It's hard to really use these scores and make any actual predictions about what's going to be happening in the season because you never really know what's going on with these rosters. Sometimes these teams are just developing their rookies. They don't even like know how to throw sometimes or to play zones yet. So all of these teams are going to get exponentially better in the next couple months. And so it's going to be very exciting to see Santa Barbara, Stanford, Northwest Challenge, and all these teams participating against other top teams to see kind of where the Northwest actually falls in the top rankings.
Yeah, connectivity is always a big thing. So getting out to these tournaments, that's what you're going to hear about in the main event. It's Santa Barbara Mega Preview. So we're going to head to the main event and break down the 3 Canadian teams, what they're going to be up to. Last thing I'll say is give the B team some experience. I'm going to beat that to death, but you got to give the B team some experience. That's why they're there. They're there to learn. So
they were scared, I think. They saw them putting up those other scores and they're like, I don't want to get beat by UBC again.
Yeah, they lost to the A and they're like, oh no, we might lose to the B. So it's like, Washington might come at us. I don't think they're going to listen to this, but maybe someone on their team will. But yeah, play the B teams. That's all we're going to say. We're going to take a quick break and head to the main event.
Hey, this is Kelsey Hayden from Halifax Salty, and I'm a writer for Ultiworld. You're listening to the Huckin A podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate.
Welcome to the main event, everybody. We have your Santa Barbara Mega Preview. We have 3 Canadian teams in attendance, and we are very excited to break down all of the action for you. We're going to start in the open division. First of all, I have the unfortunate honor of giving you the news that UVic and UBC are in the same pool, which I think is just, like, I know they're going by rankings and everything, but when you have 2 Canadian teams in attendance that are in the same region, it would be fun for other teams to get to play them. It's also good for to kind of like geographic diversity for the algorithm and everything. But alas, they get an early season look. We're going to call this 10th annual Dogwood Bowl preview. It's going to be a matchup in Santa Barbara. So we're going to start with UBC Open. They are ranked number 7 overall in the tournament. Ultiworld has just recently mentioned that they are an unranked team to watch. So Ultiworld came up with like 5 teams that they thought just missed out on the top 25 that they thought could make a splash this season. So they actually said that UBC Open had the highest ceiling of all unranked teams. So we expect to see nothing less this tournament. So UBC is without their U24 center handler, Yuchi Lin. He is kind of working through a little bit of an injury right now, but he should be back on the field in no time. So the squad is looking to kind of make for them a name for themselves in the USA competition. We got a couple notable standouts. We got 4 red flag players in Justin Podner, Wesley Choi, Kevin Tong, and Abir Lamba. We have 6 U24 national team athletes, Devin BP, Podner Tong, Yuchi, Philip Craigle, and Abir Lamba. One person I'd like to do a shout out for that's been kind of popping off at practices lately is Bryn McCall, who's a standout rookie. Played U20, was amazing. They're kind of flipping him back and forth between O and D line because he's so impactful on both, but you can expect to see him get at least one block a game this tournament, which I'm really excited for his college debut. Their coach, Edward Guo, said, this is a quote, "We're excited to finally get our season started with our first tournament. We've been focusing a lot on fundamentals and increasing the base level of all of our players. There's definitely a bit of anxious energy, but hopefully we can play well this weekend." So normally I know Guo to be a very confident guy, and I think that this is like a really humble quote from him. I think the team is looking really good from what I see. I see them practicing 3 times a week. There's a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. Their D-line looks like they're rolling right now, so I'm personally very excited.
And, we were asked a little bit about UBC, the people at the Alti World, they were asking. And they were like, oh, well, how did they do in the Canadian series? And before we even go into the schedule, I just want you, the audience, to understand. For them, it's in the fall. They're trying to peak in the spring and get to college nats. So I wouldn't take all their results in the fall as indication of what they can do in the spring. It's just like as if we see other teams play like fall tournaments like Misery Loves Company or Classic City Classic. You're not going to take those results and just say that equals they're going to go to the finals of nationals. So just throwing that out there for you, because I know people like to rain on UBC's parade a little bit sometimes in social media. Remember that first time they came? That was pretty fun, Danie.
Yeah.
But that was a fun time. So people like to rain on their parade, but they're getting some hype, not from us, but from the American media is all we're saying.
Yeah, and I think that they're going to come out firing. Their first game is against Grand Canyon. Didn't know that was a college team. So they're ranked number 14th in the tournament. Then they face off against number 11th ranked UVic. So again, as I said earlier, it's the preview of the 10th annual Dogwood Bowl happening on February 25th in Vancouver. Then their third game is against Santa Barbara, ranked 18. And then their final game is against number 2 ranked Cal Poly Slow, who's also been power ranked by Ultiworld at number 7 overall in college. So that will be a good test for UBC to see how they stack up against the top teams in the US. Calvin Brown is back in full force after his injury. He's playing on the U24 Open team, I believe. Yeah. So Theo, is there any kind of game to watch out of this whole category that you're most keen for?
I mean, besides the Dogwood Bowl preview, it's kind of cool to see a program that I know Grand Canyon from volleyball because they're like a good volleyball school out on the West Coast, or west end of the country. So it's kind of cool to find out they have a Frisbee program that's going to this tournament. But yeah, the game against Cal Poly Slow, obviously the biggest one, a team that's routinely at nationals, Southwest powerhouse, a good opportunity for UBC to play a team like that early on in the season, because yeah, you might play, like, for example, you talked about this in the news, but you play tournaments more up in the Northwest area, but UBC able to get that connectivity and play some other teams. So I think that's pretty cool. Obviously missing one of their top handlers is going to be a little bit of a setback, but I know that they're going to have a lot of depth. You mentioned some of the rookies, and Bryn McCall, I saw him ball out with Eclipse when I was commentating, so expecting to see a little bit more of that. And just with the format too, if you finish second in the pool, you have to play that extra pre-quarter game. So you kind of want to win that pool, right? So if things were going to seed, they play Western Washington. I know Western Washington has been good in the past, but I'm not sure what they'll look like this year. So
bit of a mystery. All right, so we're going to be talking about UVic Open now. So Theo, they're kind of coming in at number 11. What do you know about this team so far, and what do you expect of them out of pool play?
Well, first of all, we were told this like amazing fun fact. Between the women's and open team, there are 6 sets of siblings. Is that actually right?
Yeah.
6 sets of siblings
between the teams.
Like between the two teams?
Yep.
That's nutty. That's pretty nutty.
It's like small town college vibes, even though it's a city, but like everybody, like if you're from like North Van or you're from Winnipeg or something and you decide to go to UVic, you're like, it's dope, you should come too. And the whole family just joins along. So little family act over here. We love it.
And, sidetrack for like a hot second, but how's the school spirit with UVic? Because they're kind of on the island. Like everyone just really excited to be part of the school? Because I guess like where else are you going to go on weekends, right? You're not going to maybe take the ferry over and back. So is the school spirit pretty high with like varsity sports and stuff?
I think it is a really nice sports culture at UVic, and a lot of the athletes end up kind of living in houses together. You don't really see that at UBC as much. It just feels more like a big city. But all the community players as well really kind of rally behind the college teams, and they make sure that they get to scrimmage against them and they follow along a little bit more diligently, I'd say, than you do in other college towns. So definitely high school spirit for all the sports. Yeah, it's a good vibe. I'm biased though, Theo.
I know you went there. So alumni. We're talking alumni here. But for players to watch, a couple U20 names. Ben Baird, am I saying that right? Bard?
Correct.
Max Petnuzzo. You probably heard of these veterans before who've come and played the Canadian series with the UVic, Keegan Freeland and Justin Petnuzzo. And a favorite of the podcast, or a fan of the podcast, Ricky McLeod, a little furious U24 Open. He's also suiting up for the team. So, my views on college. Danny, yours might differ, but I always think if you have like 3 or 4 just real top end players, you could really do well. I think you would agree. I see you nodding your head, but
yeah.
You could really do well if you just have 2 or 3 people you just run things through, and they're going to be playing, many of the points. I remember back in the day when Texas A&M had Dalton Smith and Matt Bennett, and it was just those 2. Every other, and they were just running the show. It can only get you so far, but it could potentially get you to nationals because you just have such a high end talent. Oliver Telfer, one of their coaches, said, "We are also excited to get our season started. We are excited to travel to an out-of-region U.S. tournament for the first time in 3 years and see some new teams." And then in brackets, caveat, except they put UBC in our pool. So excited to see new teams, get some old teams as well. But the fact they're playing their first U.S. tournament or out-of-region U.S. tournament for the first time in 3 years, that's pretty interesting. We often forget the impact of COVID still on some of these teams not getting reps. So just remember that as well. And it's a cool opportunity for these student athletes there. They're also going to be focused on executing their systems and, like I just mentioned, gaining that valuable tournament experience they didn't otherwise have. So their schedule would be similar in terms of who they face in pool play, the same teams that UBC would play. So anything, send out to you, Danny, and also why don't you let them know, or let the audience know, if things go to seed, what would happen? Who would they play?
Yeah, I think like if you looked at just the rankings, their closest games should be against UBC and Grand Canyon. I feel like historically UVic has really rose to the challenge of playing against UBC, even though when you look at the rosters, you might think that UBC has more depth, has more top club players, Team Canada players. UVic, for some reason, has their number. So I'm actually most excited for that game for UVic. If things kind of go to seed for them as well, they would also, just like UBC, face a Northwest region rival, and they would potentially see Oregon. So whether UBC or UVic end up 2 or 3 in their pool, they'll cross over likely with either Oregon or Western. So a bit of a regional preview.
Looking at the Oregon roster, it's not the Oregon of old, is all I'm going to say, because I used to follow Oregon pretty closely. I always thought their program was pretty exciting. There's not a lot of names I recognize, but in the Ulti World rankings, they're at 16. And they're hyped up on their recruiting class. So they got a lot of young bucks out there trying to make a name. So that would be a cool crossover. And then once that happens, you would, of course, go to traditional pool play there. In terms of other happenings in the tournament, one thing to note as well is I'm looking here, there's a Friday night schedule to accommodate BYU. For those who don't know, BYU is a Mormon university who doesn't play on Sunday. So tournaments will often accommodate them. And they're doing so by actually having BYU play teams in the pool of UBC and UVic. So we'll see how that affects the teams they're going to be playing, because BYU is going to play Cal Poly Slow. Looks like probably a showcase game, 8:30 p.m.
That's fun.
That's a game to watch. Number 1, number 2 seeds going at it on Friday night. So maybe that's going to soften up Cal Poly Slow for UBC and UVic later.
All right, we're going to head to the women's preview. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the UVic women. They're the sole Canadian women's team that's going to be there. They're coached by Amira Madison and Julia Osada. So let's look to Alicia Brody to lead the squad with her intensity on D and her composure on O. I saw that this last weekend at Bellingham Invite, and I would expect nothing less from this veteran. Also, we'll see rookie Georgia Smith, who was one of the star players on Eclipse, to make a name for herself this weekend in the college play. Her tight defense and cutting footwork make her a threat on both sides of the disc. Other notable names, veterans, people that you can expect to be pulling up some serious stats. We have Claire Bates, Erica Edgell, and Kate Bourdon. So very, very exciting. I didn't get a quote from their coach because they are a very kind of captain-driven team. And so the coaches graciously passed on that opportunity to the captains. And so the captains said, the Vikes will be bringing a small but skilled roster to Santa Barbara Invite. We're bringing new systems that we've been working on for the tournament with tips and tricks that we learned at one of our training camps led by former traffic captain Nicola Parker. In regards to spirit, we're hoping to continue the success we had at Canadian Nationals, placing first, and showcase the progress we have made this season. So Nicola Parker went up to the island, ran a training camp for a few days. It looked really fun. This team is super exciting, run and gun style. I kind of have no idea how they're going to be doing. Do you want to break down the pool play action for us?
Yeah, it's looks like they only have 15 teams, so that's unfortunate for the one pool. That only has 3 teams. That sucks. But UVic coming in as the 10 seed, they get BYU. So I'm always interested to see how BYU does. Just have they get to play on Friday nights. They have this whole different setup. So fun to have them in their pool. We often hear, especially more so on the open side in years past, when they had Jordan Kerr amongst others, that this team would be like a semifinals contender at nationals, but we would never see it because they don't play Sundays or regionals. So we get to see them match up here. They also get Lewis and Clark, the 15 seed, and then a really strong Stanford team, ranked decently high on Ultiworld's power rankings at number 9, returning their 2022 Coach of the Year and a U24 player in Hannah Huddleston. So this team that's going to be a good matchup for them, a good test early on, especially as you said, they're bringing a smaller roster. There's pros and cons to that. As I'm speaking to the coach here, so the coach knows. There's pros and cons to bringing the small roster, right? Because you could have players break out and kill it, but then you could also get people too tired, So there's both sides of the coin.
Yeah, so we actually took pretty detailed stats at Bellingham Invite for UBC, and we were able to, unsurprisingly, but it did kind of confirm a bias that both Robbie and I had, but the people that played more had less of a turnover percentage, regardless of what position they are. Like usually handlers that are your main shooters will have more turnovers, but this kind of superseded that. So the people that played more turned the disc over less because they're more engaged in the game, they get more touches and everything. And so what we did at Bellingham Invite was we sat people. Everybody sat one game so that we could kind of condense people's playing time a bit more in the games that they did play. And it had a very positive impact. So as you're saying, a smaller roster, not a bad thing, unless you can, if you can avoid injuries, of course.
You just heard some coaches tips. Stay tuned. Subscriber only, you get the coach's corner this week. So make sure you tune into that. But BYU also a power ranked team there, coming in at lucky number 10. So both of these teams saw it very highly, and if things go to seed, they would face either, let's take a look at the schedule here, either UCLA,
Cal Poly.
UCSB's up there, but I don't see UCSB losing a game here. They're a really strong team. They did well in nationals. I remember they had a star rookie last year that in Devin Quinn that I was very impressed with. So we're not going to talk too much about the other teams because, Canadian podcast, but the top 4 of this tournament, Danny, it's pretty exciting. You got Deco out there, you got Syzygy making their way over from Minnesota to come to this tournament all the way to the West Coast. So on the women's side, there's some pretty strong teams, and I'm interested to see who takes the title. I know we're not previewing the whole tournament, but that is exciting.
As an Ultiworld video editor, Theo, can you give us some insights about the video streaming or video tape delay for this tournament, if you have any?
I currently do not have the games of which ones will be filmed.
Tape delayed. Yeah.
Yeah, tape delayed. So unfortunately, I cannot tell you that. I know. I mean, I'm looking at the sched now. Oh, there is actually a game. Sorry, I stand corrected. Unfortunately, no Canadian team is currently scheduled there, is all I'm saying. BYU Cal Poly Slow is going to be filmed, which does make sense. It looks like all the BYU Friday night games will be filmed, which kind of does make sense a little bit. But, Canadian teams out there, don't fret. If you get yourself, in the bracket, maybe you'll be filmed there. So there'll be some quarters and semis being filmed, and of course the finals as well. So there'll be finals for each division, as well as a semi from each division and a quarters. So
do you see Saturday games listed, or is that TBD still?
Saturday games are listed, but there's no Canadian ones scheduled.
Okay, you can slide into my DMs with those games later so I can scout properly. I got my whole spreadsheet going, so I can't wait for the footage.
Danny's very scout heavy right now, I'm just saying, folks. So I know this almost is turning into subscriber only, so you're getting a little preview of what you're going to get in Coach's Corner. But Danny's definitely very focused on this season, just in talking with her. It's something that she's really devoted a lot of time to, which I respect. Got the passion out here. So, you're interested in the scouting. So I'll take it and say to the people in the audience, you should also subscribe if you're wanting to scout and see some new teams. And this also is a friendly reminder, Danny, that we always do. Why are we talking about West Coast teams? Well, they're going to these tournaments. So East Coast teams, if you want us to talk about you got to go to some American tournaments. Is that right?
I heard some people at Alti World murmuring, mumbling, mentioning McGill. So they're curious about you. They're McGill curious. So
they did send us a message. That's all we're saying.
You got to get out there. They think that you could make a real run based on what they saw last year. And if you are a team that maybe did better than McGill this year at Canadian Nationals, this is your call as well. Get out there. Even if you just go to sectionals, just go see what's up. It's so fun. Just do it. I think we have beaten this dead horse, but maybe they just need little reminders all the time.
Yeah, and if you are going, like I've said before, and I think we both said this, if you're going to a tournament that's obviously not, the high-profile ones like a Santa Barbara, Stanford, Eastern, Smoky Mountain, etc., let us know, because there are tons of smaller college tournaments that happen, and sometimes they're on the USA Ultimate website, but you kind of have to dig through. It's not an easy website. I'm not here to, smear the website over there, but it is not easy to find a lot of things. So like I said, if you have a tournament you're playing in, let us know. We want to talk about it. Yeah.
On that note, we're going to head to a quick break. We're going to see you on the other side in the outro, and then you're going to follow me to the subs only section for some more coaching tips in the Coach's Corner. See you on the other side.
Hey, this is Daniel I, co-founder and captain of Danger Noodle, your 2022 CUC Co-Bronze medalist. And you're listening to the Huckin podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate.
That concludes our we got the preview going. We got the recap of Bellingham. So the college season is in full swing, folks. And, we're excited about it. So lots of fun stuff happening. Club season's actually not that far away, Danny. I'm just putting that out there. I know the big high school national tournament's going to happen before that. But club season, I saw, in my my former neck of the woods, I should say, Toronto, had already announced their tryouts. So Go GT Roy, that open system, has already announced their tryouts for late April, kind of during exam season, which is kind of funny. But tryouts are getting set up. So club teams are getting ready to go here. So before you know it, we're going to be talking club tournaments, and then kind of intermingling with the college tournaments happening.
Yeah, we're seeing high school teams kind of starting up here. We're seeing club teams running workshops. It's very, very exciting. So if you want to know about Ultimate, if you want us to talk about something specific, hit us up, follow us, subscribe, compliment us, slide into our DMs. We love you. Thank you for joining us for this episode. Good luck to all the teams in Santa Barbara this weekend, and we'll see you in the subs only or next week.